So we're just really happy at Black Country Healthcare Trust that Alan accepted the invitation to come and speak to us today. And so I just wanted to introduce Alan. He's going to speak and answer questions up until about 3:30, and then we're going to have a 10-minute comfort break. So if people want to take themselves off, get the kettle on, and then if you want to rejoin us again at 3:40, and then Alan can start again for the second part. So we're really excited to hear what Alan's got to say, and you know, for people to be able to ask questions. And I think there'll be lots of connections this afternoon with experiences that Alan has had himself. We've also got members of the other team members from the trust as well. So I've got Dr. Ratner here, who's from Children's Services as well. Hi, Sita. And so I think we're ready to go, Alan. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I'll leave you. So if everybody wants to switch their cameras off just so that it's not quite so disturbing, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Is it stop video?
Sorry, what was that?
Is it stop video for turn the camera off?
Yes, I think it will be.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I've done.
Thank you, Steve.
Are we all ready?
I think so, Alan.
I think so.
Everybody still there?
Yeah.
Right. Mine is a strange story in a way, I suppose. I was 55. I had my second child, Reese. I had 3 kids. Was at college, and he was studying fashion design. And they actually thought that he was dyslexic, and they decided that they were going to do a test. He was 18, so, you know, really didn't need me to come along. But there was a cancellation, and there was an appointment immediately after for what's a better term, parents' evening. And I was actually there, so I intended to sit outside the room and wait for him. It was just a 30-minute chat with a psychologist. So we went down, and the man said, is that your dad? And Ray said, yes. And he said, oh, he can come and sit in, you know, it's nothing. 30 minutes later, he said, I think there's something I should tell you both. I believe you both have Asperger's syndrome. That single sentence had a repercussion that basically changed everything that followed. It was like, I don't know if anybody believes in destiny, but the things that happened in quick succession, because I'd always learned that the Alan Gardner way was either I take something on board or I ignore it completely. And here was autism floating about in the ether. And it would have been something that I could just easily have gone, that man said that, and that's the end of that. And basically, I walked away from the situation. But no, it didn't. So I think I had a day's grace where I didn't check on the computer. And then I had a look at some reliable sources and thought, my God, somebody's written a list of who I am. It was from that sort of point onwards, I contacted the National Autistic Society, and very quickly ended up doing designs for them and basically trying to help. And then about 3 contacted me and wanted to do a program about autism. They wanted to do a program where they wanted to show autistic people's abilities. Now, what nobody sort of realizes is the lady that was one of the main bosses of Channel 4 at that time had an autistic son. And it was that program's intention to create awareness. It wasn't even, as it left Channel 4, going to be a gardening thing, but the production company had sort of decided that it was going to go down this gardening route. They contacted me because I'd done previous other garden series, and had no idea I was actually autistic. So the whole thing sort of went along the lines of, I have Asperger's, and she said, yes, they have Asperger's, and I said, no, I have Asperger's, and there was a silence. The thought of an autistic person leading a group of autistic people was something that they hadn't really comprehended. I mean, as it sort of worked out, frightened the hell out of me, as the person really who didn't care what people thought about him, suddenly ended up with some students on a TV series and was absolutely terrified that they'd hate me. I'd never actually ever had that feeling at all. And everything that you see on these programs is filmed in real time. So I was trying to work out, when I knew I was going to do this, how the hell did I survive to the age of 55 being autistic and actually not realizing I'm autistic? And obviously, I was brought up in the 60s where autism was something that truly didn't exist. I struggled a lot in school. I was bullied a lot. I mean, I didn't wear makeup and have pink hair, but I was still bullied a lot. Qualifications, well, I've got 3 CSEs. I'm not quite certain if I have the 3rd one or not. Because I didn't bother to go back and collect it, because in my head it was not worth the effort. Everybody else was sort of basing their life on qualifications, and I wasn't. At the age of 15, I become totally and utterly fascinated by gardening. It started off with a cactus plant, and I think, as a lot of us are totally aware, the overpowering urge to do something is incredible. To grab hold of something and then decide that you enjoy this, and then taking it to the nth extreme. I mean, I went from, I was doing and maintaining people's gardens after I spent 5 years on the parks, and I was going out there and started to design gardens in 1996. But no, I'm autistic. I can't just design gardens around the block. I had to do Chelsea Flower Show, which I did 3 times. I did 40 RHS show gardens, absolutely, totally hyper-focused, because I'm not going to say obsessed, because we all know that our interests are not obsessions. They're something, there are a place of safety. And it's all about something we know and we understand, rather than something that we just keep doing. So I found out, looking back, how I'd sort of coped with everything. But I've also found out, and I am cultural ambassador of the National Autistic Society, and I do follow the guidelines, but I have to admit that a lot of the diagnosis is actually quite wrong, because we are not a diagnosis, we are individuals. And if there is one thing I have learned since being ambassador and being out in the wider world and meeting autistic people, we are different. We are different from each other. We don't all look the same. We don't all like the same things. We all have different abilities. Some of us are talented at various things and some of us aren't. Some of us suffer with autism due to bright lights, strong noises. But I've always come to the conclusion that what we actually are is we're light switches. Either I'm fully engaged in something or I am not. This may sound strange, but I love bright lights. I love loud noises. And if I'm actually in a situation where there isn't a noise, I'll make a noise. And I've been thrown out of many sort of places because of that. I sense the world in a different way. They call it autism. They call it a condition. They call it a disorder, where actually it's a difference. It's a way somebody sees the world. It's the way somebody perceives the world. you cannot assume that because I can make eye contact that I'm not autistic. And it's a bit like autistic people get stressed. Yes, some of us do, and some of us don't. Some of us know our own sexuality, some of us do, some of us don't. I am absolutely terrible at knowing my own feelings. I've always believed that I don't get anxious, but then I get excited. So actually, is this feeling I'm feeling anxiety, or is this feeling I'm actually feeling me being anxious? I don't see the detail. A lot of autistic people see the detail. I see the bigger picture. My bigger picture is so damn huge that it goes out into the solar system and back. I have to know what the stars are, the planets are, the clouds are. I even have to know what the airplanes are called that fly in that area. I have to know about plants, and I have to know about ecology, and I have to know about nature, and I absorb it like a sponge. So we have this main criteria for being autistic, which really is a complete jumble, as we are all very different. As I found out on Twitter, there's a lot of autistic people and friends on there who really, really suffer on a daily basis. It's a square peg in a round hole. People are trying to help by having shopping hours that are quieter and lowering the lights. And that is suitable for some people, and it's not suitable for others. We're in probably, as a condition, one of the most damn complicated things. My son, who's my eldest, who's 28, Hayden, said to me before I did this, how the hell are you going to give a talk and not offend anybody? Because that's how it appears to be, because we all have different experiences. And if one's experience doesn't collate to somebody else's experience, then it is considered to be wrong. How can an autistic man do a garden series on telly? Well, I'll tell you, it's dead easy, because telly is so autistically friendly without ever realizing it that I'm taken everywhere. There's always somebody escorting me. I'm plonked in the middle of New York. I haven't got to arrange the flight. I haven't even got to know I have to get off the plane. I am just escorted. And that's normal sort of TV procedure. And after 6 months of that, when I wake up in the morning and sit on the side of the bed waiting for my wife to tell me to get up, I just get so used to that sort of lifestyle. I'm able to cut things off, segregate things. If I go somewhere to do Chelsea Flower Show and I've gone away for 28 days, none of my family actually exist. I'm just there to do that. And I can do that quite easily. But then the other day, I came across on Twitter a list of things that are not normally talked about by autistic people. And I wondered how many of these strike a chord. Intuition, sixth sense. I can meet somebody within 2 minutes, not like them at all, and have no grounds for not liking them. They just seem wrong. I know we are not meant to understand other human beings. We're not meant to understand social cues, and I'm terrible at that myself anyway. Anything that's considered a social sort of line, I've broken at some point or other. But I think we have an uncanny sort of ability to see people for who they truly are, and that would apply to some of us. Uncertainty of gender. When it comes to sexuality within autism, I think there is more differences between us all than there are in neurotypicals, referring to neurotypicals as normal people. Intense emotions. I can get really wound up about certain things for God knows whatever reason. When I first wanted to have a tattoo, I was really concerned that my wife wouldn't let me have a tattoo because she didn't like tattoos. So I wound myself intensely up about that. Once I got round to telling her, and she said I could have a little one. I think it was that one. Said I could have a little one, and that was no problem. It took 2 weeks before I had the appointment to go and have it done. And how the hell I didn't explode in excitement waiting to get there. Interesting writing, poetry, art. God, there is a lot of autistic poets out there. I have a best friend who's a brilliant autistic poet. A lot of us are fantastic at writing, and a lot of us are artists in our own true sense because we have the ability to see things differently. We have the ability to bring in a different perspective to our work. Vertigo, motion sickness. As a child, 3 minutes in the car would be about as much as I could take. I was also really bad on trains, aeroplanes, you name it. There was always giving me quells, these old-fashioned, or sucking barley sugars. Where the hell that came from? But they tasted horrible. So every time I smell a barley sugar now, I actually feel physically sick. It went eventually. It only went because I actually gained the ability to be able to zone out and look out the window and feel that I wasn't in the carriage and I wasn't moving in the carriage. Imaginary friends. Personally, I never had an imaginary friend, but I could imagine we have relationships with all things that are different. I actually have a defibrillator implanted into my chest to stop me having a cardiac arrest. Yes, that's another story. And he's called Phil. I swear blind, I've got a relationship going with him. I think it's one of those sort of relationships that he knows that if anything happens to me, he'll get melted down just as much as me. Sense of superiority. Isn't this something we wouldn't want to admit? I didn't think I had a sense of superiority because I was better than everybody else. But it appears that in the early days, it was probably the way I coped. As a designer, I always thought my work that I did was always better than anybody else's. But then to be a garden designer, maybe that is the way to go. Collecting things, but not using them. This one got me. I have a very expensive camera and I love to go out and I love to take pictures. What do I do with them? Nothing. I get about 1,000 of them onto a card and then I delete them and I never look at them again. I'm a lover of processes. I liked building the Lego model, didn't know what to do with it afterwards. It's the planning, it's the working out what you're doing, not the end result, that sort of matters to me. That's where I've also put on here process, not interested in the end result. Prolonged staring. I don't think I've ever done that. And eavesdropping. So autistically, I have a couple of things that I would consider to be gifts or strengths. My strength being that I can see things three-dimensionally. I'm extremely spatially aware and I can actually design a garden or a space and I can actually shut my eyes and walk through that space and experience that space. But I also have an ability, which I don't think I've ever told anybody, whereby I can actually sit on a crowded train and I can listen to everybody talking and I can take a couple about 5 seats behind me and just log on to their conversation and listen to them chat, even though they're not directly next to me. So I have this rather strange ability of listening around me. As I say, I don't feel that I get anxious. I don't struggle with influences on the outside. But from what I have learned, it is all down to we are all individuals. We are not a diagnosis. We all have to be treated differently. We're not, as I used to use the term, we're not broken computers with different operating systems. So we don't have a disorder. We don't have a condition. The diagnosis rate is in Ireland, which I think is far more accurate than here, is 1 in 65. If that was the other way around and autistic people predominated, nobody would actually really know the difference, would they? It's whoever's in the larger quantity at the time that sort of rules the day. And expecting neurotypicals to change things and to change perspectives to suit us is asking a lot, really. I think what we have to do, what I have done always in my life, is to actually find a place in this world that suits me better, that allows me to do what I do so that I can twist the universe and actually use it to my advantage rather than trying to fit into something. I suppose that the weirdness is that I'm not sociable. I don't socialize. I've never been out for a meal with anybody. I would never invite people around. I have lots of friends, but would I classify them as friends? I don't know. I never needed friends when I was a child. And it's all this neurotypicals putting value onto an autistic person that this is how they should feel. If an autistic person doesn't want friends, then they don't want friends. This isn't a sad situation. I think the way, if anybody out there listening to this wants to help autistic people, the answer to that is very plain and very simple, is allow them to be autistic. Allow them to do what they want. If they want to skip down the road and they're 45, who cares? If they want to, show anything in any particular way, who cares? I mean, isn't this down to the human race generally as it stands at the moment, that we all seem to hate each other? And autistic acceptance is just like racial acceptance, gender acceptance. If everybody just accepted everybody to be what they are, what they want to be, then we can all live a happy life, can't we? Kate, Sally, even. That's why I wrote it on there. Help me.
Alan, are you ready for some questions?
I am.
Lovely. And I think we've got quite a few young people. I don't know if they've got questions or if they just want to say hello to you as well, Alan. So I don't. I don't know. First of all, it might be if we've got young people in the conversation today, if they want to say hello to Alan, if you want to pop your hand up, and if you want to make yourself visible and unmute yourself, you're welcome to say hello to Alan.
You can if you want. They're just not related.
And then James, did you want to say hello to?
Yes, I know him. So I was, hi, Alan.
Hi, James.
Nice to see you again. Long time no see.
Are you all right, my friend?
Yeah, look.
James is one of my apprentices off the first series.
Look, I'm showing you something, the rest of you guys.
See what I've done to that man's life.
Yeah, it's nice to see you. I thought I'd register and join you.
Really nice to see you, James.
I still do my gardening, which is good.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I still live with Jack. He's happy birthday as well.
Oh, thank you.
That's all my family and the rest of my housemates that live here and my staff, because they love watching the series still that we did.
Oh, cool.
Mm.
Thank you, James.
That's all right. You're welcome.
James, if you want to pop your hand back down again, and then if anybody else has got a question, did they want to ask anything? Chloe, did you want to say anything?
I'd rather listen more than say things, because I don't know what to ask, questions to ask. Because
Alan's saying hi to you as well, Chloe. Thank you.
oh,
I can see anybody else with their hands up at the moment.
Yeah, David.
David, would you like to ask your question, please?
Well, David, yeah, I'm a public governor for Wolverhampton. Oh, who's on?
Anybody?
We can all hear you.
It's David Hellier from Public Governor in Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
I have no connections with autism, no relatives, no friends or anything like that. I have met a few people with autism in the course of my life. I was a health service manager for the whole of my working life.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's why I'm the governor of the trust, because over a period, I realized the importance of mental health, learning disabilities and other services. But I actually found what you said extremely interesting, Alan. And you were describing yourself and your likes and dislikes, and something occurred to me. You're not just describing yourself, you're not describing people with autism, you're describing everybody. Because the qualities and the characteristics that you attribute to yourself, not necessarily in the same proportions, but they can be ascribed to other people that we do not regard as being any way different. How do you respond to that?
The autistic sort of stance is that the brain is altered in some way, and that we do see the world in a different way. And I mean, I know it's very difficult for me to know what it's like to be neurotypical, because I'm autistic. So it's difficult for us to look into both realms. But there is something askew with autism. Sensory overload is totally off the charts. My daughter, even the slightest noise can actually curl her up into a ball. Bright visual stimulus, loud noises, lots of people can cause meltdowns. And this is, as an autistic person living in a world like this, because it doesn't affect me like that. And the last thing I want to do is to say that there is some of us who are worse than others. This is not a top trumps experience. But the world is completely strange to us. It is completely different. And yes, there are neurotypical people who have gone out there and made things of themselves and are footballers and things like that. But it's a difficult thing to sort of split. You'd need a psychologist to actually sit down and understand why he thinks being autistic or not autistic is different. I was tested by Professor Simon Baron Cohen from Cambridge University, who is accredited to be one of the best autistic guys in the country, who said out of 18 traits that I actually had 14 of them. I appear to have opposite traits, which is, loud noises. Yeah, bring it on. Wife claims that I love to hear my own voice anyway. It's a completely different thing, and it's really, really difficult to sort of get to grips with, because the people that really suffer being autistic really suffer.
Thank you for the question, David. I think we've got Diane with her hand up as well. Diane, would you like to ask your question to Alan, please?
It's not such a question. Hello, Alan.
Hi.
I've got 3 young adults with autism, all different. I just want to thank you for actually saying what I've been saying for years.
Your children will be fine.
Yeah.
They will love others.
Yeah.
They can get married.
Yeah.
They can have children, and they can live a life that's important to them. Just because that life doesn't conform to what you would think is the correct sort of life doesn't make any difference, does it?
No, I mean one of my lads is 20 nearly. He learnt to drive. He drives very well.
Yep.
He also works in aerospace. The other one works in the NHS, and he couldn't stand hospitals or needles or blood or any for that matter. And my daughter works in a calf, and they said they wouldn't do nothing. So
wait, because I was diagnosed at 55, our children were sort of teenagers.
Yeah.
So they hadn't sort of been picked up.
nope.
Hayden, my eldest, went to Coventry University, got a BA Honours degree in Fine Arts. And he's in Manchester with his wife, Cammy, because he can't have a relationship because he's autistic.
Yeah.
So he's got his wife, Cammy, and he lives up there and he works in the media industry. Deanna is presently, she's 20, she's at Manchester Metropolitan University studying graphic design, living there on her own, made her own friends, hasn't managed to poison herself or kill herself yet in any way like that. Reese still lives with me and Mandy. He's between the two. And he works for Donnell Mill. He's one of their fitters that goes out and measures and puts up the blinds and louvers and loves it. Loves his van. I love his van because I just love vans. Fucking cars.
My son is doing languages as well. He can speak 4 fluent languages, and he's doing an open university course and working at the same time.
I gave a talk at the Ashbourne Arts Festival, and a lady in the audience said that her autistic son, when he was younger, was obsessed with being James Bond and everything about spying and that. And the audience sort of gave her, oh, you know, that cute sort of thing. And then she said he's now 22 and he passed the MI5 examination board.
Good for him.
And he started training with them.
Yeah, good for him. My boy wanted...
The possibilities are there. Neurotypical people, you know, some of them are really successful and some of them aren't so successful. And we're just the same like that.
Like me. Not successful.
Give them my regard.
I will do. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Can we come to Agnes now, please?
Hi. Oh. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi, Agnes.
Hi, Alan. I just want to thank you for what you've said as well. I'm a mother of a daughter who's 25 with high functioning autism. She was also told that she wouldn't do anything. She's also got a degree for child and family inclusion or special needs. Sorry. She couldn't cross the road when she was younger because she had no spatial awareness. She now drives a car, which people said that she wouldn't do. I'm an EBE for Dudley and Walsall, and I'm a public governor for Walsall. But so much of what you said was just reassurance, because you sometimes think, even at 25, is this norm? And then you think, well, what is norm? You know, there isn't a norm. But what you were saying today, a lot of it, I could just go down a tick box. And she's sitting beside me, and she's, you know, she just smiled every time you said something. It's like, yep. And listening to people's conversations, she can tell me what somebody said at 3 tables away if we go out. So that I find reassuring, because, and what I would love to know is, how could you get a 62-year-old diagnosed? Because I'm convinced their father's got it as well. With the two peas
I'm
in a pod.
62 now. I'm 62 today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. I always do things like this on my birthday. And they said, "Are you sure? Because it's your birthday." I go, "Does it really matter? I'm autistic. I'm not going to have a bloody party, am I?" You know, I don't like parties. I don't. When we did the Autistic Gardener, they had a party at the end of it, finishing filming. I've gone down in history in Channel 4 as the only presenter of his own TV series that didn't turn up for his own party.
I just would like to thank you, and it's just been so encouraging and so reassuring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes. Can we go to Deb next, please? I can't hear you at the moment, Deb. I'm not sure what's happening because it doesn't look like you're on mute, but yeah, I still can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
A headphone, and I don't think it was linking across. I'd just firstly like to say, for me, this is I got invited through my work situation, and when I saw the invite, I work for the Albion Foundation, and at the moment I'm in the educational team, and for me it's a subject that I really do feel quite strongly about, and listening to what you said there, Alan, I think for us as a foundation it would be, you know, we've got quite a lot of people who are inspirational themselves, that would sort of really like to hear from this story, and I would like to do the keep the recording. But I'm the mother of well, she's 19 now, a 19-year-old daughter. She's autistic, and it was exactly the way you just explained it. She didn't get a diagnosis till she was an adult. She got turned away by CAMS week in, week out, literally. I didn't get any responses. I knew from when she was about probably, I would say when she was quite young, 3, 4, I could see the signs. She was put down as having all sorts of other conditions. But then as she got older, she got bullied. She struggled socially. She struggled with her self-esteem. And in girls, it's quite difficult to spot, as a lot of people will know, because with boys, there are certain traits, but with girls, they hide it quite well. So when we actually got the diagnosis, it was like you say, it was like a hallelujah for her and for me. And hearing what you said, it sort of almost it made a lot of sense of her previous 18 years. She struggled academically because she didn't get any support because she hadn't got a diagnosis, and we forged ahead with it. And she's now at Birmingham University doing cybersecurity. And she is just, you know, like that other lady said, Agnes, she's learned to drive. She still struggles with her self-esteem. And I think that's what we do need to try and probably eke out a little bit for people is the mental side of it, the self-esteem, the health.
The confidence, isn't it? Because I think I was privileged in the fact that I didn't find out until I was 55.
Yeah.
You know, because the kids that are particularly diagnosed, you know, it's best, they say it's best they know because they can get the help that they require. But you've almost said to the child that they've failed before they've got off the first step because they need extra attention. And it's a matter of, I think it's a matter of an autistic person finding where they fit in this bloody jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used the term before, and it is true, but I actually feel inside me that one day I'm going to get in a spaceship and go home. I never vote and things like that. When people ask me why didn't you vote for this, I say, well, I'm not allowed to interfere with the politics on another planet. Because some of the things that our government and things like that, you go, well, okay, I'll make a note of that when I get back to my own planet. And I think what's also, I don't know if you do Twitter, but the autistic community on Twitter are just superb. And the stories that you hear from there and the way they all support each other.
Yeah.
is truly spectacular. It really is. No, we're just in a society at the moment that doesn't like somebody because they're the wrong colour or the wrong sex, or they get and autism just fits into that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, with Charlotte, she'll do something, and then she used to do it, get angry and fall out with people, and couldn't fit into groups. And because she hadn't really got any sort of form of diagnosis, it used to send her into a real bad place, because why am I like this, Mum? Why am I like this? But
understand
then
why.
she got the diagnosis, and almost it was like she started to understand why, because she knew then that her reactions, because with her, she can't understand how she's affecting people. That she doesn't understand how she hurts people's feelings, but she shouldn't be thinking like that, because it should be more understanding from other people. And I say to her now, you center yourself more with people who understand you. Don't center yourself with people who want to keep saying, why are you always doing that? Surround yourself.
Exactly. Yes.
And then you get into your comfort zone. But with what you said, you know, you've sort of got to 55 and you've gone through probably the struggles in your life. And I see that you've got a fantastic attitude towards the whole thing, because it's almost like, this is me and this is the way I am, accept me. And this is, you know, we're not all stereotypical, are we? So
no, I like, you know, I like doing what I like doing, and and it makes me feel good. But there actually is something really missing in my head that goes, what will people think?
Yeah.
And what used to annoy me was when I had the pink hair, I would get people, women included, come up and go, "You're so brave dyeing your hair pink." And you go, "What's brave about dyeing your hair pink? Going over the top of the trenches in World War One, Jesus, that's brave. You know, throw yourself out to space on a little cord. Not going to Asda, spending £3.75 on a box of Schwarzkopf Live and rubbing it into your hair. You know, what just doesn't sort of compute. I wanted to have my hair green with orange spots, and I thought it was a good idea. Yeah, let's go for it, you know. Life's too short.
Yeah, thank you very much. Anyway,
Thank you.
I'm very new, and I will get onto Twitter and look at. So if I can have some links and stuff, I'd be really
I'm Autistic Gardener on Twitter.
Okay, I shall join you on that.
Okay. Sally, I've got a suggestion.
Okay, David.
Yeah, listening to this discussion, I actually believe that we should, where autism is concerned, we should completely abandon the term diagnosis.
Yes.
Because I don't think in itself autism is an illness. It's a condition that a person has. And I would rather use words like...
It is a condition that...
But hang on, let me finish. I actually believe that it would be more sensible and perhaps make it more understandable for the wider population if we use terms like recognition or understanding than diagnosis. Because if someone is autistic, that is recognized. It was recognized in you at 55. But I don't like the term diagnosis, because that to me, that I associate that with ill health. And I don't regard autism as an illness.
Autistic people get diagnosed normally for their own self-worth, for their own knowledge of who they are, to explain why they are what they are, rather than using it as a sort of go out there, look, I've got a diagnosis. It is important to understand why you think what you think. And a lot of autistic people truly suffer because they don't know they're autistic or don't understand. Once you understand why you do something, once you understand what direction you're coming from on these things, and it makes everything clearer. one of the funniest ones I ever read on Twitter was somebody who tweeted, "I've just been diagnosed as Asperger's, and now I realise why everybody throughout my life was so dumb." And I thought that was so brilliant. I understand where you're coming from. It's a very, very tricky subject. But then at the end of the day, we shouldn't be here for me shouting about autism. We should just all be out there accepting everybody of everything, shouldn't we?
Yeah, and I think that is the point that I'm trying to make.
Yes.
Because, I mean, there are so many people in society who have difficulty making friends. There are so many people in society who misbehave in the grossest of ways without being autistic. You know, to my mind, just because someone has that set of characteristics, to me, doesn't mean that they should be segregated in any way or regarded as different.
Can I
You've
ask
just
a
got
question?
rid of the National Autistic Society. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Yvette.
Hi, Yvette.
Yvette, before you do your question,
Yeah.
can I just let people know, which I apologise, I should have done it before, but we have got mental health first aiders on the call today. So if anybody's struggling and needed to speak to somebody outside of the call, they can be taken into a different room. If you just private message the Black Country host, can you see in the chat?
I can't.
You've got the option to message everybody, or you've got the option to just message a specific person. If anyone needs to speak to the mental health first aiders, if you just send a direct message through that, then the people who are managing the tech side will be able to support you with that. Yvette, was it Yvette or?
Yes, yeah.
Yvette, would you like to ask your question? And after that, Paria, I can see you've had your hand up for a while. I can see you. I'll come to you after Yvette.
Lovely.
Sorry
Thank you,
that.
Sally.
Thank you. Okay, Yvette, if you'd like to ask your question, please.
I've got a daughter with autism, and I think there are a few people in my family with autism. I've got a very artistic sister and a nephew with Asperger who don't live in. I live in Wolverhampton, and I think one of my questions is, my daughter's very caring. She's on the autistic spectrum. She's a very caring person. I sometimes think at colleges they stop at certain levels and they can't get on to the next level without support. And the other thing that I wanted to ask was about an autism strategy. I had heard that there was one in Wolverhampton, and I just wondered how it was affecting people that were over 25, as my daughter's over 25. That's mainly my question.
I think I point that back to Sally.
Yeah, that's fine, Alan. Yvette, for today, because Alan's the main speaker, he's not really able to answer the local question.
No, it was the counsellor, actually, the person that was asking Alan.
What I was going to say was, if you've got a specific question like that, I'm really keen to build up links with people outside of this call today. So would you like to send me a separate email and I can link you in? I know we're hoping to set up another call later in the year and talk about more local services. So it may be that we can have a conversation before that, but that we can include some of your queries within the next one. Is that okay, Yvette?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that happy birthday to Alan, and everything he said resonates with me completely.
Thank you, Yvette. Paria, can we go to you next, please?
Yeah, thank you, Sally. Hi, Alan. Happy birthday. You're rocking it at 62.
Thank you.
I just feel very privileged to be here, and it just happened just by itself. So it was obviously meant to be. Yeah, I think for me, what it is, I'm a trainee counsellor, and my placement is with the blind, visually impaired, and the autism spectrum conditions and other learning disabilities. And I'm supporting some clients at the moment with autism and Asperger's. who are visually impaired. And I suppose for me, what it is, as a trainee and being very new to all of this, I just want to make sure that I am skilled and I'm putting things out there that are correct from a neurodiversity perspective, because you're very right, Alan, in what you say is that from that perspective, people make these really big assumptions.
Massive assumptions.
Yeah, massive
the
assumptions.
One I was doing, I was having a chat the other day, and I said, you ran an office, and you was employing some people, and you employed an autistic man. If you went and looked at all the stuff that you thought you'd need to do, you'd stick them in the corner, put headphones on them so they can't hear anything, and lower the lights. And that is as bizarre as employing a man who spent most of his working life in Nigeria and sitting him in the window to get as much sun as possible.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I do.
Somebody needs to ask the person involved. Doctors don't understand autism. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. Because they've got this basic set of questions, this basic criteria, you can make I've heard that one. You can make eye contact, so you possibly can't be autistic. You know?
Yeah. So I'm just wondering what sort of resources, what would you sort of point me in what direction?
National Autistic Society.
Okay, which you mentioned earlier. The other final thing sorry, Alan, carry on.
I mean, they might then, refer back to Sally here.
Okay.
As far, but I mean, the main charity involved, the largest charity involved over here is the National Autistic Society. In Southern Ireland, they have As I Am. Okay. That is the most brilliant name for an autism charity I'd ever heard in my life, and had to get on a plane and go and talk to them. But As I Am, the NAS deal with, I've done videos with them and understanding about autism. And so I am one of their ambassadors. But they have there's lots of stupid out there, to be honest. On the internet.
Yeah.
You just Google symptoms of autism or something like that, and they talk about cures, they talk about treatments, all autistic people really need is understanding, love and support.
Yes.
And if one thing, if they're good at one thing, then that's the obvious direction in their life for them to go. Why fight against the flow of water coming against you when you're disadvantaged?
Yeah.
I'm a garden designer. I work on my own.
Yeah. And
I
love
contractors who I go out and see, and I go out and see clients, but I don't work in an environment. I'm no team player. I would just want everything to be the way I want it. I would be really upset if they didn't.
Yeah. And I was going to say, that's what I love about what you said about obsessions. We're told about all these things, and actually it's a place of safety.
It's a place of safety. It's a place of comfort.
Yeah.
And it's a place of control.
Yeah.
Even to the point that I went to the Royal Festival Hall and talked to 900 people. I had to sit in the audience for about half an hour before it was my turn, and I felt more out of control, more vulnerable sat with the audience than I do standing on the stage.
Yeah. And may I ask, would you be able to visit the Queen Alexandra College in Quinton in Birmingham?
At some point in the future, as I am actually shielded severely.
Right.
Whatever, which is a very polite way of going dead if you catch it.
Yeah.
I always
yeah.
That's it, is it? Severely clinically vulnerable.
Because
I have heart problems.
Yes, I am
so
aware.
I'm not meant to go out. I do go out. I don't go. I haven't been in a shop for 12 months. I saw a train today. God knows. I mean, I used to go on a train about 5 times a month.
Yeah.
And now, if I go to the post box, it's an exciting day.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, whenever you are able to, it would be very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And thank you.
You'll find me on my Twitter account, Autistic Gardener.
Yes, I will definitely be reaching out for that. Thank you very much. And Sally, I will be in touch.
That's perfect, Paria. Thank you. Are you ready to take another question?
Ready to rock and roll.
Okay, lovely. Paria, are you back? We'll give her another minute, Alan.
Yes, I'm back.
She's back.
I'm back. I've just sent you an email, Sally.
Oh, lovely. I'll catch up with you. So you were okay with your question, and that's all sorted out. And then Philip Ram, I think you wanted to ask your question next.
Yeah, hi, Alan. I'm 47. I'm an autistic adult as well. And it was just your comment about being a square peg in a round hole, and about the divide between neurodiverse people and between neurotypical people. What I found myself is that all the help I've been given all my life to be better, so to speak, has been trying to fit me into that round hole of being normal and being neurotypical.
Exactly. It's a standard. It's a standard to follow. I was in hospital 3 years ago, and my heart had failed. My remaining heart was in what they call atrial flutter. And it was basically beating, hardly beating. It was upside down. What they wanted to do was to shock me and stop my heart and restart it to regain back the normal rhythm. And I said to them, well, what happens if we don't do that and I stay in this rhythm that we're in? And they went, oh, it won't hurt you staying in this rhythm. It's just not the normal rhythm. And it's the same with autism, isn't it? We shouldn't have to kind of fit into what they consider. We should have allowances, but we should also sort of shape the world how we want to shape it. Find that niche in that thing that we want to do and make it our niche. And the way that we approach things can be beneficial for everybody.
And do you think neurotypical people should make more of an effort to meet neurodiverse people in the middle ground, or even try and speak to them on their terms rather than on neurotypical terms?
I don't think there should be any difference between us whatsoever. We should just be human beings, and we're just the ones that see things in a different world. I really do. But that's then probably because I've never been diagnosed at 55. I was never told I was different, and I knew I was different. I knew I did things differently. But as my mother-in-law said, well, he's just Alan, isn't he?
So yeah, thank you for answering my question. I really appreciate it.
I don't think we can expect the world to turn the lights down for some of us. I don't think we can expect the world to open their shops at different times. We're a vast tribe, and we're spread throughout all of society. There's autistic people right at the top, isn't there? And it's amazing. We all contribute, and I think it's us finding our own road, finding our own niche in society to do what we want to do. Because I found out that when I wanted to do gardening and I wanted to be a garden designer, then I had to deal with other people, and then I had to find a way that how I could actually communicate with these people. But I did it instinctively because I didn't know I was autistic.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Alan. Have we still got Lorraine, who had her question before the break?
She's still having a biscuit.
I'll move on to Brooks, and then I'll come back to Lorraine after. Brooks, are you ready to ask your question, please?
Yeah, I am. My name's Brooks. I'm a provider of outdoor activities. And just so there's full disclosure, my agenda, if I have one, is just making the world more inclusive, welcoming and enjoyable for everyone. And if I can do my part in that, then that's great. I'd like to say thanks so much for sharing all about your experiences. I found that really insightful. I'd like to really quickly say hi to James, and thanks for showing us around the watercress line. I enjoyed that. And now my question, it comes in 3 parts. So you questioned the value of a diagnosis, or at the very least implied that it was a double-edged sword. So my 3-part question is this: is there an Alan in another universe who never had that meeting at 55, never even had that opportunity, and never had that diagnosis and ended up just fine?
He would have.
Sorry?
He would have ended up just fine, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
it's like I feel sometimes I'm also one of these autistic people that actually like change. If I don't have change, it's, where everybody likes a routine, I appear to not like a routine as much as they like a routine. And I like to go down the road sometimes and just take a sharp turn to the right. And I'm sure that the Alan Gardner who didn't get diagnosed is still out there and doing what he does. But the one thing that I really didn't calculate when I signed up with a TV production company to do the Autistic Gardener, that I thought in my head, if one person benefited from this, then it was worthwhile. But it wasn't, it was thousands. And that program has been shown in 16 different countries around the world, and is being shown as we speak on satellite channels. It's extremely popular in South Africa, New Zealand, Germany at the moment. And because there's constant telly now running everywhere, it just gets to be seen on demand. And I'm really proud, and it wasn't just me, it was the production company that came up with this concept, and I'm proud. They did 500 hours of filming for first series. And to be honest, in edit, it could have made us all look idiots, or they could have made us all look like heroes. And they chose the right path. They gave it the right feel, and people thinking that, they're picking on autistic people in doing this, but they were all very well looked after, and it was all very well done. And I'm sure there is an Alan Gardner in the multiverse who didn't find out that he was autistic. There's probably one out there who isn't.
I like that.
He'd be a right sad bugger, he would.
I suppose with infinite iterations, you're going to get all sorts of possible combinations, aren't you?
Yeah, there's an autistic you out there based on your theory.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. So I warned you it was going to be a 3-part question. That's my first part. My second part, and without wanting to give people the wrong impression about my opinions, I would like to know yours. I would like to know whether you think there's possibly some people out there who are most or part or a large chunk of their way through their lives who are autistic and possibly might be better off without a diagnosis.
There are thousands of people out there who are autistic and who are unaware, and I come across them in my life, and you go to yourself, should I tell them or shouldn't I tell them? Some being told would benefit, and some being told, I suppose, would not benefit. I mean, we are really, really bad at finding them. We're really bad at diagnosing, autism generally, aren't we? And so many of us are missed. But do we need all that help and that support? Don't know, do we? Would I be a different person now if I was diagnosed early and had all that support? No idea. It's one of those, isn't it? I always found that people later in life who had a diagnosis just made them understand why they are where they are and why they thought what they thought. That's the benefit of the diagnosis. The doctors seem to think that once you've got a diagnosis, you'll just go out there and try and get as much help as possible. I didn't want help. I just wanted to know yes or no. I just wanted, I wanted to know if this was true or not true. I thought it was true. And there's a lot of people out there who believe they're autistic and have not been diagnosed. And they shouldn't be mistreated as any less, should they? Sometimes on Twitter, because someone's talking and they think they're autistic, but they haven't been diagnosed, they're shunned upon by autistic people who go, "Oh, you're not a real autistic person because you haven't got a diagnosis," And I feel like, "Oh, write a piece of paper and post it to you. You've got autism, right? Great, fantastic." Doctors don't understand it. I went to my doctor for a diagnosis and they refused. At 55, they said that I've got this far, and I was obviously not suffering psychologically, so they wasn't going to give me a test.
And that actually, that's thank you for your answer. That actually does lead me on to the third part of my question, which is it's obviously given you an awful lot, and I'm really pleased to see that. My question, the third part of my question is, do you think there should be more funding or more efforts put into attempting to diagnose adults?
Probably not. In America, Autism Speaks spends $14 million a year on trying to find a cure. The Americans see this as radioactivity in the mountains and vaccines, and this is just a difference. But in America, they spend vast sums of money trying to find a cure. We tend to spend our money on giving support when it's needed because we're all in at different levels. Some of us need more support than others, and that's not a problem. That's what should be done, rather than when I went and got diagnosed. Professor Simon Baron Cohen spent 3.5 hours with me. Said, this is the point where I say you're suffering from Asperger's syndrome. He said, but you're clearly not suffering. And here is a leaflet. And sent me out the door with a leaflet. We fight to get the diagnosis. Then when we got the diagnosis, there is nothing there for us afterwards. There's no support.
I realise that I've asked some questions that don't have absolute unequivocal.
No, I'm sorry that I couldn't be on that respect.
Well, you know what?
It's back down to the individual, isn't it? You're trying to get autistic people to be involved in something, but you also realise that some of the people who come don't want to be involved with it.
Yeah.
Do they?
I'm pleased you didn't say yes or no to those questions, as difficult as they were. And having asked them, and they are quite provocative questions, having asked them, I'd like to say to you and everyone on the call that you're great as you are. I think it's important to add that.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thanks very much, Brooks, for your question. I've just got a couple of questions which are coming through from the chat. So I've got one which is from Nellie May, which is asking just about the impact of BAME and different, I suppose, cultural ethnicity identities. So I'm not sure whether that's something that you wanted to talk about. I know I've been having some discussions with people who were hoping to become part of the experts by experience. So if that's your question and you would like to have more discussions about it, if you want to just drop me a little email, then we can carry on the discussion. That would be really helpful. And then let me just check this message. And then I think if we can come back to Juliet, because I know you've been waiting for a little while, Juliet.
Yes, hi.
Thank you, Juliet. Sorry for the long wait.
That's all right. Hi, Alan. I'm Juliet. I'm a public governor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm public governor for Wolverhampton, but I'm also the vice chair of a support group supporting families with children with additional needs and disability. My question really is, it's about an allotment. We've secured a ground so as we can transform that allotment into a sensory garden for our parents and the children. And as you was talking about that, you did design and whatever for your garden. Is there any way, probably when you've got time, to just sort of support us in the sort of things that we could really put within the garden? You know.
Do you do social media?
Yes.
Do you do Twitter?
We are on Twitter as well.
You will find me on Twitter as Autistic Gardener.
Okay.
Give me a follow and I'll follow you back and we can DM.
Okay. Well, our vice chair will do that and get in touch with you. And what you were saying with everything, my second question was, because my son was just diagnosed recently, and as a parent, I had the gut feeling something was wrong. But
something was different.
You were talking about, because it was all so different. But it's like what you said about a diagnosis. The diagnosis didn't help us, but it made me understand how to support him better instead of in my way, by saying you've got to do this.
Helps him to understand himself, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So thank you very much for that, and thanks for your support.
Thank you.
Juliet, can I just ask you, when you're looking at your garden, are you looking at a kind of a sensory garden?
Yes, we are looking at the sensory garden. We're going to, it's 100 feet, the space we've got. It's flattened down at the moment. What we're doing now, we're bringing support in to come and do things. We're going to the local schools as well to see what they would like, because hopefully they will be able to use it also. And we will be having a big 30 feet summer house. Those are the dreams. That will be reality.
Lovely. Sounds great, Juliet. Thanks very much for the question. And then if we can go to Chris Blower next, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Chris. Thank you.
Hi. Yes, hello there. Thank you for letting me in there. I'm staff governor and I work at the Penn Hospital, but really I'm also a parent, probably more importantly actually than I'm a parent. And I do have a son from previous marriage who's now 36. He was always kind of, I don't know, excuse my terminology if it's wrong and I do apologise, but basically you knew right from an early age that he was slightly different, the way his behaviour was. And a big part of that behaviour was there was never a grey area. It was either black or it was white, and that was it. And he would challenge his teachers, you know, just as a, for instance, a teacher was on a yellow line in the playground, so we went and told her, and we got called in by the teachers to tell us off for him letting him do that. But at that time, we didn't realise there was anything particular wrong with him. He was just, you know, it's just the way he was. As he was growing up, etc., eventually he went through a divorce from my wife, etc. So he went through quite a lot. Now, at this point, we didn't know whether he was autistic or anything else. From my point of view, it was just the way he was, and that's it. And I love him very much, and I'm very proud of him. But as he got older, he sort of became he left home at the 18, decided he wanted to sort of share accommodations and stuff. And then he had problems with his sexuality. Now, I'll say a problem with sexuality. He didn't have a problem with it, other people did. But he was confused whether he may be gay or not. And now he believes he's transgender, and he's been transgender now for some years now. Doesn't particularly believe he's gay or anything else. He's got a massive heart, and he's the bravest person I've ever seen because he's who he is, and that's the way he is. It's only recently, sorry to be long-winded, but I just want to give some background. Recently, and I'm saying about the last 12, I mentioned to him a few years ago the possibility of being autistic without knowing what autism really was, probably until today. But he just got so angry and so mad. He never spoke to me for nearly 2 years. He wouldn't contact, we wouldn't speak to each other because he got so hurt by it all. And then that passed, and over the last few years, we have a fantastic relationship, etc. But for the last 12 to 15 months, he's decided that he might be autistic. He's trying to get from the GPs, etc. I don't know if he's or not. Listening to all the people who've been on tonight, it would suggest to me that is the way he is. For me, that it was like, I don't know what, and I'm not prying by any means, but as a parent, if I knew, it's the old adage, if I knew then what I know now, I really could have been such a much, much better supportive parent. Yeah. I saw somebody earlier saying we don't need more support for parents. I'd have to disagree with that because I didn't even know there was any support out there, if I'm honest with you. And I could have been a better parent and would like to continue to be a better parent. With him, he's for me, I felt that at the time he was hiding by being transgender, but hiding from himself. He's always been going to education. He's now got a master's degree in English literature. He would, if I bought him a new telly for Christmas, he will give it to somebody who needs a new telly. That's what he does. And he will spend hours giving out, food banks, all that kind of stuff rather than get a job. So he's got a massive heart. Unfortunately, people do see him as different, but they don't see him necessarily as being autistic. They see him as being transgender, somebody who dresses differently. Whereas I do think that there's an issue there. That again, I'm not suggesting it's an illness or a problem. I'm not really experienced enough to know what it is. But to me, he's just a great sort of person, and he is who he is.
His identity is fluid in its own sense, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
he likes to explore who he is and likes to find out who he is. But unfortunately, in this society, there's some people who take objection to that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is for years now, he's been learning about religions. Now, when I say that, he's not necessarily religious touch up it, but he's interested in the mythology of that. He's actually been he's been Christian. He was born Christian. He was Catholic. He went to Catholicism and spent some time in cathedrals there, trying to be not a monk. I'm trying to think of the word. To be a brother. Believe it or not, it's not easy to get in to be a Catholic priest, to be honest with you. But he saw the wrong side of those things, didn't like that. He then turned to Judaism. He got attacked because he was living in Warsaw through a predominantly Muslim area, went through as Jewish with the thing on his head and that, and they didn't like it. And he wouldn't stop him. So that's why I say he was the bravest person I know today. And then he went on to Sikhism. He did a bit like you. He did actually lecture at some of these places, and they wanted to know why did he turn to Sikhism, etc. So he's got abundance of talents and skills. It's this black and white. At the end of it, with life, sometimes it's not. You can't stick to exactly to the rules. So he falls out with people. If he doesn't think it's right, you could be his best friend, but he would report it because he knows it's not right. Did you kind of anything, you were saying...
Social injustice, isn't it? Mm-hmm. If something is wrong, it's wrong. And if something is right, it's right. And as you say, for me, the grey area doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I either do something or I don't do it. Yeah. A year and a half ago, I was doing a photo shoot for a German magazine in Birmingham, and I wore some lip gloss. And stupidly, about a week after, I tried a bit of my wife's eyeliner. But then being autistic, I then found out that this was the wrong sort of eyeliner. So what's the right sort of eyeliner? So then I started researching what the makeup is, and then you have to learn how to apply it, and then I watched the videos on how to apply it. And and now I wear full makeup. I mean, we're talking moisturizer, foundation, concealer, contouring. It takes me about an hour and 10 minutes every morning to do it, and I do it religiously every morning.
Well, I read.
You grab it and you run with it.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I remarried and have 2 children, and they're in their 20s, and one is my daughter. And he rings her up and says, "What do you think of this?" Or what, you know, and they go and buy makeup together. You know, well, when we could actually, which is a fantastic relationship to have. But I just feel that if I'd have known a lot more, when I have learned a lot today, and appreciate what everybody's saying. Don't agree with what everybody's saying, but I do agree with most. But if I did know a lot more, I really could have been such a much better parent than I am.
It's accepting him for who he is, and who he is different to what you perceive from other people around you. But he is what he is.
He is, but
once a parent accepts that this is their autistic child, doesn't try to make them go and play football because that's what they used to do, or let's take him to the children's party because that's what I used to do. It's not putting your values upon your child and allowing your child to behave as long as that child's not causing injury or harm or any to anybody else. He should be allowed to do whatever he wants to do, shouldn't he?
He does, and where I would say to you, I can honestly put my hand on my heart, and he can be whoever he was, and I always was. But I think the problem we got, I don't know if it's the right word, problem between us, it was, guys, as far as he was concerned, he was troubled with his sexuality. You know, he's gay, straight, wherever. He's decided that, you know, he's transgender. The way he'd explain himself now is 80% he'd like to be with ladies, and 20% with the male. And I accept all of that. I think my point is, we were trying to sort of, both of us, both he and I, were kind of concentrating on how he feels about generally in life and his sexuality, without actually realising part of the problem was he's autistic. He has been to the GPs and he's taking time, but he's waiting for him to come back to say whether he's autistic or not. We're pretty certain he is. And when I say we, I'm talking about me and Lynn, which is what he prefers to be called now, is Lynn. And I think that's my point. It's constant thinking somebody's got the problem of their sexuality or something, when actually it's just autism. I say just autism because it's, as you said earlier, it's just one of those things. I don't know if you agree with that.
You don't understand your own feelings, you don't understand your own emotions, then it's quite easy to not understand your own gender. But he doesn't, or she doesn't appear to be afraid to explore that, which is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, I say because earlier he was on about being brave about, you know, dyeing your hair pink. Believe me, he got bullied at school. He got bullied any job he went to. But his answer was, I'd say, well, why don't you have a day off? Have a break. No chance, he'd say. We're not going to let them win. And he would never have a day off school. And that's why, for me, bravest person I've ever known. I love you very much.
Brilliant.
But I do appreciate what you're saying, and it's been a real insight today from everybody. I really do appreciate it. I'm glad I joined. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Chris. That's really helpful to share your experience. Chris, if you're very welcome to email me if you want to get in touch separately. I can see you've got lots that you wanted to say.
I do. I don't want to hog it, but
yeah, just drop me an email if you want to or if you need to.
I appreciate that very much. Very much so.
I'm just conscious that we've got maybe 10 minutes left, really, and I've still got quite a few hands up. So if I go to these last few questions, then I've coming back to Lorraine. Lorraine Mason, is that you who had your hand up previously?
No, it's not, but I have got.
It's a new Lorraine.
It's a new Lorraine, yeah. Well, unless I put it up by accident, I'm not exactly sure. Let me put my video on. Hello. Well, I joined the webinar today because I work with Wolverhampton City Council. I worked there since I was 17, and I also do mental health first aiding. So I've took the qualification, and I came on the webinar just to learn a bit more because autism wasn't something that I knew anything about. Not really, but from what everybody's been saying, and my daughter suffers with anxiety and panic attacks.
Yeah.
And relating to some of the things that you've said, the bullying at school, she's at university now, but she doesn't seem to be able to settle with the people that she's living with. And for the forthcoming year, we've actually put her into a studio on her own. So next year, because she can't stand the mess that they leave, the noise.
My daughter at university has got like an ensuite on her room, so she doesn't have to. But she's managed to find some great friends who seem to love her and understand her for who she is.
Yeah, Bethan's she's just found a really good friend who she seems to relate to, and she started doing things with. Last year, we've lost a lot of people. I've lost all my closest, my siblings, my mum and dad. We've recently lost my husband's mum and dad, and we've put a lot of how she is acting down to all the loss that we've had over the years. Last year she had a bit of a meltdown before she came home for her nan's funeral, which she drives, and then after that she couldn't get on with anybody. This was in halls, and she used to hide herself away. She'd go and buy meal deals. She got an ensuite on her room. She got a fridge in her room. So, there was times when she wouldn't come out, but yet she's such a loving, bubbly. I'm with friends.
But is she not joining in with other people because she doesn't feel that she wants to?
Yeah, some of the time.
You know, rather than us saying she should have friends, she should go out socializing, she should.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously she feels that she needs a bit of me time. And she wants her own company and be with herself.
Yeah.
It's a matter of trying to go with the flow of what she wants. There'll come a time of its own accord when she decides that she wants to re-engage.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter's 20. When she comes home from university, I mean, some days she'll talk me to death, and others she won't say a word. And I can't take that personally. If Deanna doesn't want to hug and doesn't want to talk to me, then she'll just do her own thing and just walk past me and not say a word.
Yeah.
And then other days we'll go out together shopping and for makeup. But we'll go out shopping and stuff like that. I just learned to accept that, the Deanna I get one day is not the Deanna I get the following day sometimes.
I mean, it's not something I have ever explored because I've never really understood it. The autistic.
Yeah, I think it's important that you have to see it from her point of view.
Yeah. But I mean,
her wishes. You can't assume that she's suffering because she is not doing what you would think would be a normal thing to do. It's very tricky.
Yeah, but when she has meltdowns, they're like nothing you can imagine. She's had one meltdown, really bad meltdown, when in October, where her friends were trying to say, well, she's saying she doesn't want to be here, but they were taking it that she didn't want to be here, but she didn't want to be there. It wasn't that she didn't want to be.
Our daughter was with her friends one night, and one of her friends rung us up on Deanna's phone and said that Deanna was having a meltdown. And it must have sounded really funny because my wife took the phone and she says, "Where is Deanna?" And she's lying on the floor, but she won't talk to you because she's non-verbal, but she's having a meltdown. And she said, "Okay, sit on her." She likes the pressure on her chest, and her friends all sat on her. She liked the pressure and being pinned down, and within about 15 minutes, she felt all right again. It sounds absurd, but once you find these things, what people like, I like being hugged and embraced, and it's not really a good time at the moment to be like that, is it?
No.
And I've got my wife, and my wife's now much fatter at the bottom and the top and thinner in the middle because she's getting all the hugs now.
Oh, that's lovely.
Thanks for your question, Lorraine. I was just going to say, if there are people here today who are querying whether they or a family member might be autistic, I would just say to approach your GP, and whether that's for a child or an adult, really. And you know, the funding issue, it's not so much of an issue for children as such. So you know, depending on your individual need, I would definitely say approach your GP. Alan, I was just going to say, as a safety measure, just everybody don't be just sitting on everyone who you think's having a meltdown. No, you just just take care with that.
I did say that's what she likes.
Yeah, because it's very individual for people, and also be careful, not, you know, that the person can still breathe. Don't be crushing their chests. Or anything.
We were quite happy that her 20-year-old friends knew not to sit on her face, you know. But that's what calms Deanna down, and we know that's what calms her down.
Yeah.
And that's what we said. It's sensory overload, isn't it?
Yeah. And
I don't get that, and I'm really, really, really grateful. And that is the one thing that put me in the position to talk for autism, was the fact that I could actually stand up and do that and feel comfortable doing it. So I'm doing it.
Okay, and then one more thing that's coming up in the chat really is and I just wanted to acknowledge that, you know, everybody's different, which I think is a major theme in autism, and that, you know, some people will have additional really, you know, excellent skills and, you know, very, very special interests, and, you know, but we've got lots of people going around, they're just living their ordinary lives, and they might have a very special focus on something. So I think it's just to acknowledge, you know, if people have got concerns, you know, we're all different, really. It's just finding your own strengths and finding.
What does it really matter? I mean, my wife worked at a preschool, and there was a child who hadn't been diagnosed at that point, who collected biros, and he was really, really pleased when the staff gave him a biro with the name of the preschool on. But then one of them said, "Oh, you know, he's doing nothing but collecting biros. So if we take his biros away, or we use his biros to get him interested in some other subject," and I go, "Well, why? Why can't he just have biros? Why does he have to have another?" Because, you know, normal people don't walk around collecting biros. It's absurd. It's totally absurd.
Alan, are you happy to take these last 4 questions?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Lovely. So if we can come to T. Tustin, I've got your name on the screen. Thank you.
It's not really much of a question. It's just I want to say thank you for your time, and you've really been insightful for myself, because I have a young man now who's 23 December, and he has struggled a lot through what we've gone through at the moment with COVID and everything. And I've been in that situation where you, as a parent, a teacher approaches you and says, have you ever heard of Asperger's? And obviously I hadn't, because like Chris said, back then it's the diagnosis situation, it's black and white, so you're autistic or you're not, because I wasn't made aware of anything to do with.
It's always strange, isn't it, to say your son's not autistic because he was 2 points off.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that make that child any less autistic?
Exactly. And
I know there has to be a point somewhere, but, you know, surely that should be a fluid thing depending upon. But yeah, I know of friends of ours whose children have gone for a diagnosis, and they went, "I know James is not autistic because he's 2 points off." It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It is. But thank you for sharing with us today. And as I say, he seems to have, every time we've asked for some support when he was a lot younger, he was always missing it, because he wasn't at that age. It was like, if he was 11, he could go to this group for the support, and if he was a little bit younger, so he just seemed to be always missing some support. But as I say, he's 23, and I think we found ways to support him within our own family unit. And
yeah, going with what he likes to do rather than fighting against what he likes to do, isn't it? There was I did a talk to a school once with their special needs teachers, and they'd got one child in their class who was totally hyper focused on Doctor Who. So they built him a huge wooden TARDIS.
Exactly.
And you go, my God, that's awesome. You know, it just inspires him to carry on and to do other things.
Thank you, Alan. And you enjoy the rest of your birthday this afternoon.
Oh, I will. I will. Thank you.
Thank you. And then if we can go to Ian Tinton.
Right. Oh, I'm with you.
Thanks, Ian.
Hi, Alan. You know me as WVGM. I'm a long-time follower of Alan. This has been really my first ever Zoom meeting, and it's been a really interesting and learning experience for me. I think the comments made by other participants have been good, and the chat room has also fitted in really well, showing other people's experiences. But one thing that I've taken from today's meeting is the verb pigeonhole. And I've looked it up whilst we've been listening to presentations. It says to assign to a particular category, typically in an overly restrictive way. And I just think to myself, well, this is 2021.
Yeah.
People at Alan's age group, and there's obviously people on the screen and in the chat room here are in a younger age group. And but it just said typically in an overly restrictive way. I mean, acceptance and understanding that's life. I mean, we've got to find better reasons rather than worse reasons. We've got to find positives rather than negatives.
The psychologists have always said that in early man, anybody that looked different or behaved different was considered possibly to be a threat. So you belonged to a single tribe and another tribe looked like that tribe. And when you saw one of them, he could be a threat to you. And it's almost like that has continued. If someone is the wrong color, the wrong sex, the wrong whatever, they're a threat. And we automatically put people in pigeonholes, don't we? We go, oh, he's that, he's this, he's that, without truly finding out anything about them or trying to understand them.
Yeah. Would you mind if they put you on an iCloud and maybe got you closer to your planes? It's been a great meeting. Thanks, everybody. Cheers, Alan.
Thank you, Ian, for that question. Alexandra, can we come to you next, please?
Yes, hi, Alan.
Hi.
I just want, I know you're from Twitter and I'm totally impressed with your makeup again. I'm 49 now, got diagnosed when I was 48, and I've got a daughter who is 22 who's autistic. She went through uni and she did absolutely fabulous. There are no barriers really. I've got a son who's 10 who's autistic and a 7-year-old daughter. So the only non-autistic person in our family is my husband. He has to put up with all our meltdowns. And so, I guess you can imagine what our household is like. It's, different and exciting. And I just totally love the way you sort of express yourself. And my 10-year-old son, he's recently come out, and he loves makeup, and I'm saying to him, no, go for it if you like it, and he, like you, he will go online and he will research how to put it on properly and everything. And for me as a mum, that's not a problem. You are who you are. Let everyone live how they want to, and that's what we need. Much more kindness and inclusion. Yeah, so thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Thank you. Nice to see you in the flesh.
You too. Take care.
Thank you, Alexandra. That's lovely. And then I've just got one last question, Alan, which has come through the chat. I don't think there were any more, just this one. And that was, if you'd be happy to answer it, have you got any siblings and have you got positive relationships with them?
I have no siblings whatsoever, and it was what, 20 years ago or so, my mother and father died. So I have no family. I have a cousin who I don't see, despite they don't live, close. My wife's still got her mother, and she's got a brother, and he's got a son. So, but no, I mean, they're just me, Mandy, and the 3 kids, basically.
Thank you, Alan. And then thanks as well for the comments about the range and the spectrum of needs, and of everybody and that individuality. I appreciate that, and I think people in the chat are appreciating the discussion about the differences as well. So that's great. I think we're going to put up the second part of the Mentimeter if people wanted to answer the next question. And the next question was, what have you learned about autism at today's session? Well, for me, I think it's a lot, really. So I would imagine for everybody else, it's been really interesting, Alan, with all the information from yourself. But also, people have also shared a lot of information about their own situations and their families as well, which has been really useful and really helpful to listen to. I think people have probably seen my email address within the chat. I'm not sure if my colleagues who've been moderating the chat have had the chance to put in the detail of the service experience desk as well, just if people had any concerns that they wanted to raise in terms of issues for the trust. And as we said, that can be the positive issues or the negative issues. Somebody as well had put a message asking about the link to view the full video afterwards. Kate, am I correct that that will be advertised across social media, so across the Trust's Twitter and Facebook accounts? So if you keep a lookout for that, I think the link will be on there.
Yes, it will. We will share, and we'll share that with participants as well, because I know some people have asked about that today.
Okay, that's lovely. Sita, Dr. Ratner, was there anything else that you wanted to add to the discussion today?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to say to everyone that just sat here as a frontline clinician, feeling quite overwhelmed listening and hearing to all the conversations. And it has been, a really kind of to see through the eyes of somebody's lived-in experience. It's very poignant, and I have to say, thanks for people for sharing their experiences in a very, very frank and open manner. I just wanted to reiterate, because this is really important, is that autism is a spectrum, and we have mild, moderate, and severe autism. And like Alan has pointed out, people have autism, then you're not autistic person, so it doesn't define you as an individual. And each
I disagree with that.
Sorry?
I disagree with that.
You have kind of autism.
We are autistic. We don't have autism.
Okay, so that's one way of it's how you define yourself. So some people prefer to see themselves as having autism. Other people see themselves as being autistic.
About 80%.
Mm-hmm.
So we like that we're autistic and not with autism.
Okay.
With autism makes it sound like it's a separate entity that we bring home and we have in a bag.
Yeah, I just have to respect, however, and this is the bit I want to reiterate.
I respect you too.
No, I want to respect however you want to define yourself. And that's the message that Alan has been giving. It's kind of each one of you is special, and each one's journey is really important. And we will have another webinar about the local services and what is available. This is the thing, I think we should have started by checking how you would like to be, and that's a good way. That's how we start, how you would like to be addressed or define yourself. I think that's a good starting point of conversation to be had. Okay, thanks a lot.
If I can be of any help to you in the future,
I mean, Alan, it's been absolutely
where I
amazing.
am. You know how to get hold of me if you require any help in the future.
We will kind of you know, take you up on that, Alan.
I like where you're coming from, you see.
Thank you, Alan. And you know, I just was saying before we started, I have in my clinical experience, I've used Alan's example with teenagers. I've used his lived-in experience. He's talked a bit about you know, Phil, and I've used Phil to open conversations with children with physical health problems and very, very difficult health conditions, to allow them to have those conversations and get the help.
If I can help with the heart failure in any way, I am more than happy to do so.
Yeah, and it's kind of been a really incredible session, Alan. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Dr. Ratner. So I'm just going to conclude things really. So it's just to say a massive thank you, Alan. I really, really appreciate you coming on board for the chat today, and the honesty and all the information that you've provided.
I've burnt my birthday cake now, haven't I?
You definitely have, Alan.
I think I need a slice now after that.
And that was the other thing I wanted to say, really, and I'm sure everybody else might wish you happy birthday, and just thanks so much for doing it today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening with Mandy and your family. But I'll catch up with you afterwards. But thanks everybody.
Catch up with us. Okie dokie.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Thank you for showing on.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Want to leave?
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.